to learn about description of motion using kinematic equations. And our learning target is I can describe the motion of an object in terms of distance or displacement, speed or velocity, and acceleration. Here is the table of the descriptors of motion that we have learned in our previous lesson. As we have learned, we have 5 descriptors of motion for our lesson, which are distance, displacement, average speed, average velocity, and acceleration. And also we have classified each of these descriptors of motion either scalar or vector quantity. And also we have given some examples and identified the units of measure in our previous discussion. This week, we're going to describe motion using kinematic equations. And the first that we're going to answer is about distance and displacement. Number 1, Jervin went to 7-Eleven, which is 500 meters north away from his house. Then, he went back home traveling another 500 meters south, as you can see in the illustration below. What was the total distance that he traveled? What was his total displacement? Let's solve. To determine the total distance, we simply add the distance traveled by Jervin from his house to the store, which is 500 meters, and the distance from 7-Eleven back to his house, which is another 500 meters. And so 500 meters plus 500 meters, we get a total distance of 1,000 meters. We get the total displacement by adding the displacements of Jervin. And at this point, we assign a positive sign to 500 meters north and a negative sign to 500 meters south. Solving, we have 500 meters plus negative 500 meters equals 0. And so Jervin has a total displacement of 0 since he simply went back to where he originally started his motion. Let's do a quick check. True or false? When you run a 100-meter dash going south, the distance you travel is 100 meters. What is our answer? Yes, it is true. 100 meters is the distance traveled. There's no need to mention the direction because it will be displacement if you add the direction. We will move to 2 descriptors, average speed and average velocity. But before, this is a kind of motion that we call motion with constant velocity or uniform motion that we will use for the problem solving using average speed and average velocity formulas that we can see right now. This motion, or what we call uniform motion, means an object covers equal distance at equal intervals of time. An example is a toy car running at 1 meter per second east, meaning it travels 1 meter for every second that elapses. So these 2 formulas that you can see right now apply only to a kind of motion we call uniform motion, and that is a motion that has constant velocity or there is no acceleration. So what is the formula? For average speed, V sub AVG equals distance divided by time. Total distance traveled divided by time. Well, for average velocity, it's V with an arrow on top sub AVG equals total displacement, or D with an arrow on top, divided by time. Okay, let's go ahead and apply these formulas in finding average speed and average velocity. For average speed, let's take this example. You take a trip that covers 250 kilometers in 5 hours. What is your average speed? Alright, let's solve this. Okay, let us solve the problem on average speed. First is we're going to identify the given. What do we know in the problem? We know that the distance traveled is 250 kilometers and the time taken is 5 hours. And we are asked, what is the average speed? Let's use the formula for average speed, which is total distance divided by time. And knowing that the total distance is 250 kilometers, we just have to divide it by 5 hours, which is the time taken to travel that distance. And so, it will be 250 kilometers divided by 5 hours. Okay, dividing 250 by 5, you get 5, and then you copy the unit that you can see, kilometer over hour. So, the average speed is 5 kilometers per hour. Right? I hope you were able to get that. Let's do a very quick check. True or false? When a car travels 100 meters in 100 seconds, its average speed is 1 meter per second. Is that true or false? Okay, all you have to do is divide the total distance by the time taken. So 100 meters divided by 100 seconds, that will give us 1 meter per second. So it is true. Let's take an example for average velocity. If you could travel 5 kilometers in 1 hour, what would be your velocity? The first thing that we're going to do to solve the problem is to identify the given. We know that the displacement is 5 kilometers north and the time taken is 1 hour. And we are asked for the average velocity. To solve for the average velocity, all we have to do is divide the total displacement by the time taken. And so, that is 5 kilometers divided by 1 hour. And we get an average velocity of 5 kilometers per hour north. Do not forget to write the direction north as given in the problem because velocity is a vector quantity. And do not forget, direction is so much more important than speed. Many are going nowhere fast. Thank you for watching.